Hi, I go by the name Garifuna Duchess, and I have penned two stories so far, two considerable novels, if you would call them that. And the first book, My Spiritual Journey, A Symbiotic Relationship with My Ancestors, was published back in May of 2021. And then my second book, My Spiritual Journey, Knowledge and Guidance, Volume 2, was recently published. It was launched in March of this year. What started me on this journey? Hmm. I'd say that it was a convoluted path to get me here, but ultimately there was so much that was happening. As far back as in 2015, I think it was when everything came to a head. And in
Mhm.
2015, I would say that my life as I know it, and I've said this numerous times, unraveled. However, looking back, I was probably being prepared way before then, a long time before that. I just was not able to articulate that that was what was happening in my life.
Mhm.
I could hear people talking to me. I could hear someone talking to me, but I couldn't see anything.
Mm.
And so, of course, this was not starting out very well because, like I said, this was a foreign experience to me. And the fact that I was already, I would say, about 4 months into this exacerbated health issue that I had, I was attributing that this issue of delirium to the fact that I was not well
Mm.
and not necessarily that I was already going through the awakening process, the spiritual awakening. I grew up in a, when I was living with my godparents, it was a very structured and loving home. Um, and I mean, we definitely had a sense that we were Garifuna. But like I said, I lived the Catholic experience. I did not live necessarily the fact that the Garifuna culture it wasn't 100% of that. It
Mhm.
was a more kind of, I guess, diverse living, if there would be such a thing.
Mhm.
When I was with my mother, when I was in the States, um, I had a more sense of living in a Belizean home.
Mhm.
Um, it was very much a Garifuna home as well. Um, keeping with all the customs and the most of the customs and the culture of the homeland.
Mhm.
My mother would talk to us in Garifuna, but she was aware that we were very limited in what we understood. So it just would be like everyday kind of instructions,
Mhm.
basic conversation.
Mhm.
And while I was not able to really answer back, I understood these things. Once the gift was being bestowed, it was like I think part of me speaking the language in a way that I had never spoken it before actually came with the gift.
Mm.
Because there's really no other way for me to say that I can explain the way I can articulate or speak the language. I am not 100% fluent. I'm
Mhm.
not, but I think I have a pretty good command of the language and I'm very comfortable and confident having conversations.
Mhm.
Um, I've also spent a lot of time in Honduras. And where
Mm.
I go in Honduras, in Kusuna, which is one of the last Garifuna strongholds in one of the real, it's very south. It's in deep Colon. Um, they speak Garifuna there.
Mhm.
In fact, some of the locals in that village, they don't even speak Spanish really. They're not,
Mm.
even though Spanish is their language, a
Mhm.
lot of them are not fluent in Spanish. So Garifuna is the only language that they know, a lot of
Wow,
them.
that's different.
That was very interesting to me.
Mhm,
Um, so when I'm there, it's like I revel in that because that's like the lesson that I need.
mhm,
Like the on the job training. That's all I can't communicate with them in English because they don't speak English.
mhm, mhm,
And I don't really communicate with them. I can't communicate them with in Spanish because I speak Spanglish. So the only way I can communicate with them is in Garifuna.
mhm,
It's really the only way. And so that has also helped get me to, this point, which I'm so grateful for. I
mhm,
really am. There are three universal principles to the spiritual journey. And the first one is getting the call and surrendering to the process and the obedience to what it is that is going to be required of you ultimately. So keeping that in mind, for someone who may find themselves in similar situations, um, always try to seek help. Seeking help cannot is not always easy. I know when I sought help, there was really no one there that I found at the time who could help me. Maybe I was searching in the wrong places. I can't say that nobody wanted to help me, but being overwhelmed, you really don't know how to go or how to navigate. And I didn't necessarily have a roadmap. You are going to be guided, and ultimately, out of everything that happens, the right people are going to be put in your path to assist you. But before you get to that point, you're still going to have to try to seek help.
mhm,
Be obedient to the call to the process because that will make everything, um, when you're going through it, you're overwhelmed. However, when you look back, you're going to see if you did those things that it's probably the least path of aggravation for you.
mm,
But that will be in hindsight that you're going to see that because I know when I was going through it, I was overwhelmed. And when you're uncomfortable, when something feels uncomfortable, the first thing you want to do is fight back, is to push back and
yes.
not have to go along with that. I'm not going to sit here and say it was a bed of roses. It was really a hard time for me. A spiritual awakening is not for the faint of heart.
Mm,
There are people who have not survived spiritual awakenings
mm,
because it's very brutal and you get to meet parts of yourself that if you're not prepared to meet it and you're not equipped, it's hard
mhm,
because you will question the very essence of your existence and who you are.
mm,
You will question the ideology of your existence. You will question the ideology of everything that you know. You will.
mm,
That is what a spiritual awakening does. It's a lot of upheaval and things unravel and having this issue with identity. You go through an identity crisis. I suppose there's a lot of different ways this formula, this equation can be put together. But the bottom line is you will question, I didn't feel like I belonged in my family. I did not feel like for a long time I felt like, and it wasn't that they were doing anything. They weren't doing anything wrong.
mhm,
This was just what I was going through. It was just the stuff that was coming to the surface. So I would say if you can get help, seek help. Um, my book is available for anyone who would like to read it and maybe they can get something out of it. I've had people tell me in the past that it's been helpful to them.
mhm,
And which brings me to this because I feel like that was the singular purpose of writing the book was to try to help someone. And
Mhm.
if I could help one person, then I would have fulfilled what I set out to do.
Mhm.
But if I can assist many, many a people, then it's even better.